special event is about to happen on your lake. If there's threadfin shad on it, and if you're not a fair weather fisherman, this video is kind of for my die-hard bass fishermen. And honestly, I've not done a lot of winter bass fishing myself, especially with artificial. But there's a special event getting ready to take place soon, and we're going to get into that real soon. But before we do, I just want to give a few shout outs real quick. The first one would be to my buddy Chad for sharing some information. He showed me a new website to gain information and access to some topo maps and lake maps that's 100% free. I'm going to show y'all what that is and how to view it on here. Another shout out is where what gave me the idea to make this video, and it's a new channel that's been out for a while, and I've just recently discovered it and started watching it. But the name of that channel is Aspiring Tournament Angler Chris Johnson. Thank you for sharing this information for everybody so they can help improve their game on the water and maybe encourage some who are discouraged to try winter bass fishing. Thank you for that. And I'll go ahead and get this last shout out of the way. A good friend of mine, he makes baits and does custom paint jobs on them. And he recently embarked his journey of being a YouTuber, making videos, and he's got a couple videos out now that turned out pretty good. But the name of his channel is One Fin, and that's also the name of his lure company that he does custom paint jobs to. ONEFIN, One Fin. Check him out on YouTube, watch his videos, and look him up on social media because he paints these baits and sells them, and he does good work. And I'm gonna show some of them off here in just a minute. But back to the point of this video, the threadfin shad die-off. It happens about this time of year, early winter, when water temperatures get 40 to 39 degrees. And right now, most of the lakes here in Kentucky, they're hovering around that 43 degree mark. So it's kind of time to really get the stuff ready and prepared to go and monitor the weather and see what the cold fronts are going to be doing, the air temperature, and because the colder it gets, the more that lake water temperature is going to drop. And when it hits 40 degrees, that's when things are supposed to really start happening. 40, 39, 38, we're just a few degrees away. And the bait that was really stressed in the video from the guy who was sharing this information is these jerk baits. And that's another reason why I gave a shout out to One Fin, because I got some baits from him and I couldn't be happier with the way they turned out. He just does great work. This is a more translucent color with kind of a natural green back. This one's more of like a root beer color, maybe better for a little bit dirtier water. Got another translucent color here. And certain ways that light shines off of it, it really makes it glimmer. Got kind of like a purple back. Just some good looking jerk baits. And pretty much what you want to do, guys, is you want to focus on where the bait fish are, and you want to utilize your electronics, down imaging, side imaging, look for the big schools in the deeper water, use your eyeballs, because they're supposed to come to the surface right before they die and start flickering the top of the water. Or at least that's the way I took it when I watched the video. That's the way I understood it. But if you don't, the bass know. When the bass know what's getting ready to happen to those threadfin. So even if they're not dying off, they're going to be nearby. And not only are jerk baits important, but you know, I got a couple of jerk baits here that are to the extreme. If you want to go extreme shallow, or if you want to go extreme deep, it's good to be diverse and have the capability to work different levels of the water column. But you don't want to forget about other baits too. You got these sinking baits, the countdown lures. They drop about a foot a second. You don't want to forget about blade baits, clear water, dirty water. You don't want to forget about a shad wrap or a lipless. I mean, those could be players in that situation. Even something like this, it's not a square bill, but it probably runs about like a shad wrap. All those hard baits could be players, in my opinion, for this event. But we're going to talk about a couple soft plastics here that I think could play. And the first one is the 6th Sense Panorama. This is the 3.5 inch. Never fished with it yet on the water. I just got my hands on these baits. And the other one is the Mooch Minnow by Crush City. Rapala makes this. So to start off with the Panorama, the way I would fish it, this is just me guessing, what I would do is I would take a drop shot hook and I would hook it right in the top of the back, right in the middle, right there, like you were gonna vertical jig with it. Not a traditional drop shot rig, just have your hook at the end of your main line and hook this soft plastic right here in the top of the back and get the smallest split shot sinker that you can put, like the BB size or the next size up, about 12 to 18 inches above this bait. Because what's going to happen when you're vertical jigging it, or even just pitching it and bringing it back to you, every time you lift up on that bait, that split shot's going to drop first when it falls. And what's going to happen, it's going to obviously make that bait belly up. Well, what does a dying bait fish do when they're dying off? They'll kind of try to take off, and then they'll kind of belly up and flip over, and then they'll sink. This would be a perfect imitator for that. And then, of course, you know, the Mooch Minnow, this new tail design they got on there, it's made to just kind of flicker. You know, it's not a wide wobble. And I feel like this would be a player. Definitely made for cold water, for sure. Just get you a light jig head hook on there and just work it extremely slow is what I would do. But just try to be where the bait fish is. Prior to even putting the boat on the water, I would suggest the north end of the lake, just because when a cold front blows in, you know, usually the cold air comes from the north. You know, the prevailing wind is coming out of the north during these cold fronts. And the north end of the lake would just be my starting point. But that's not always a guarantee, because depending on how your lake is laid out, you know, your deeper water on, like, say the dam area may be on the south side of the lake, and that's where all the only deep water is, and all your tributaries are up on the northern end of the lake. Well, unless those tributaries have deep creek channels or just, you know, just deep water out in the middle, that might not be the best place to start. Or it, you know, if you're on a lake that has several big tributaries that are real deep, you know, that might be the place to start. It's just one of those, you gotta find them. You know, if you're fishing like Lake Cumberland, for example, I feel like Lake Cumberland would be hard. And I say that just because there's so much deep water everywhere, regardless whether you're up in a tributary or not. But you know, a lake, maybe like a smaller lake like Taylorsville, that has a lot of tributaries. A lot of them are shallow, but they got creek arms. But they've got creek channels and river channels. So just because it's a shallow tributary doesn't necessarily mean it's not a possibility. You have a river channel that runs through it, it might provide those shad just enough depth to think that they have a chance of surviving, because when they drop down into that river channel, you know, it's going to be just like being out on the main lake where it's deep everywhere. So there's a lot of variables, a lot of things to consider. But I'm going to show you all this website, this new website that I've never really interacted with much. It's got some great information on it. It's got interactive maps, topo maps that show contour lines, and it also gives you specific information on specific lakes. We're going to go over that here in just a minute. I pretty much talked about all the baits that I want to talk about for this video, and that's pretty much all I got, guys. This is a major event that's going to happen that not a lot of people are aware of. It could come and go numerous times throughout the winter. It's pretty much the biggest event leading up to the pre-spawn. You know, the mid-March pre-spawn feeding frenzy. This right now is pretty much basically the times to go if your lake has the threadfin shad. And a good way to find out whether your lake has threadfin shad or not is just get on Google and search it. Here in Kentucky, Lake Cumberland, Taylorsville, Cave Run, Harrington Lake, all those lakes have threadfin. But you just have to go in there and look. It's super easy. Just go to Google and just ask what, you know, does, like Guest Creek Lake. I don't know if you've heard of Guest Creek. It's a pretty good largemouth lake, and I'm pretty sure there's gizzard shad in that lake. And I just typed, does Guest Creek Lake, Kentucky have threadfin shad? And it just came out and told me no, it does not. So do your research before you go trying this, because you don't want to be on a lake that doesn't have it, because that would defeat the purpose. But anyway, good luck to y'all. Stay safe on this cold water. And once again, like and subscribe. I really would appreciate it. That would help me out tremendously. Until then, peace.